Hi, welcome to Astro Journey UK. In today's video what I'm going to be doing is just a processing video, but highlighting why it's worth going back to reprocess your old data. So this image on the left hand side was taken in about January 2021. And it's my image of the Rosette Nebula. It was a narrowband monochrome image taken with narrowband filters. So there were 11 300-second hydrogen alpha images, 9 oxygen 3, and only 5 S2 frames. And what I decided to do was just to, so this was processed in Photoshop, back in January, and this one on the right was processed using PixInsight, but just using techniques that I'm aware of and I use today. So I'm just going to run through a processing tutorial or run through of sort of recreating this image on the right hand side basically. So we'll get started. Let's close these ones down because we don't need those anymore. Let's put them down here. And I've got my 3 images here. Actually, if I just close these and then we can go up to there and tile windows, which has not really worked too well, but that will do for now. So yeah, these have been auto stretched in PixInsight, and you can see that obviously the hydrogen alpha data is the best quality. O3 is not bad, but yeah, only 5 frames of 300 seconds for the S2 images, so it's not really that much detail in there. But that also could be fundamentally to do with the fact there isn't that much S2 in there. So what we first need to do, actually I'm just going to change these back because these don't look that great like this. I prefer to have them smaller and just overlap with each other. So just pressing Command T to get these images up. What we need to do is make sure that they're actually aligned first, so just go into star alignment. I'm going to select the hydrogen alpha to start off with as the main frame to match upon because it's the strongest data, and then match O3 and S2. So just let that do that. So the first benefit of using PixInsight is you don't have to do this manually. You can just let PixInsight do this for you. So that's sort of a benefit over Photoshop right there. It can be done. You just have to manually align it. But if your camera is rotated slightly for whatever reason, then beginning to do all that rotation stuff begins to be a bit of a pain. So that's all aligned. So we should be able to just put that over the top and you'll see that the stars match up. Next thing I'm going to do is actually do a dynamic crop just to make sure that everything is just the actual image data itself. I think they're all fairly similar in terms of alignment. I don't think I was using dithering back then either. I was, from a capture perspective, I think I was still using APT. And I could never quite get dithering right or really understand what I was doing. These days I use an ASI Air Plus device, and that does dithering really easily because you just literally check a box to say dither images and away you go. So dynamic crop, drag the triangle onto the other images to accept the same crop that I've got selected for O3, and then just click the tick to finish that crop. So that's all done and cropped. It's also a good idea to save these files as you go along because you don't really want to find halfway through that you've PixInsight's crashed and then you have to start again. So I'm going to do a dynamic background extraction, and the reason for doing that, and also why I can do it, is because fundamentally, actually yeah, we'll do a dynamic background extraction. I can do this because with the HA data it's quite strong even for such a short integration time that I can see where the nebula is and where it's not. So I'll give that a try anyway and see what happens. So let's increase these to 20, just hit generate. So what I want to do now is just drag these away from the nebula, keeping an eye on this screen here for any stars. So you should be able to see when there's a star, there's a big sort of black blob there. So you don't want background extraction to have any star information in it. You also don't really want it to have any nebula data in it either. So we'll drag these ones away from the nebula. And sometimes it's a bit of a guessing game, and the only way that you can really know whether it's worked properly is by doing the background extraction, and if it looks terrible, then try again. I'm going to pull this down here. I think there's still faint nebulosity, if that's even a word, around here, but we'll just pull these down here anyway. One thing I don't know, to be fair, is whether it matters where these squares are in terms of where it's automatically placed them versus where I then drag them to. But that's basically see in a minute. It's nearly done. Get this one out the middle as well. Drag it down there. So that looks okay. So what we can now do is drag that onto, actually change target image correction. So I want to do subtraction, discard the background model, and replace the target image. Drag the triangle onto that image just to do the background extraction on that one, and then do the same on this one. And each time you have to re-stretch them. It kind of looks okay. It's very faint data anyway. Half the time it's quite difficult to see until you then merge it, and then you might see some strange effects where everything's not quite evenly corrected. And click execute the final tick on the final one to actually do it on the HA data. So that's that done. We can now close down dynamic background extraction. So we've got our images. I'm just going to save these quickly just in case. Alright, so now they're all saved. It just needs to do the channel combination. So this is the bit where you see it come to life, and we're doing a narrowband sort of Hubble palette image. So we need to put the red channel, which is the S2, put that into there. Green is HA, and blue is O3. Just hit the circle to combine all of the images, and then do an auto stretch on that so we can see what we've got. And there we go. I think when I was first editing these images, for some reason, well, actually when I first saw this I thought, oh gosh, something's gone horribly wrong, it's all green, how am I going to get colour out of this? And there's a number of different things that you can do. You can either use SCNR, or you can use the curves to sort of play about with the colours, and I'll probably do a combination of both. It'd just be, with all image editing and processing, it's a bit of trial and error, and you learn things over time. So do background neutralization on this image. I'm just going to create a preview of somewhere that looks dark. Try and get it without stars as well. Select that preview. Sometimes you can do this on the entire image and it's fine. Sometimes it's good to do it on the actual background itself. It's always quite tricky to know where to do it really. So that's that done, and then I'll do a color calibration as well. You've also got photometric color calibration where it should plate solve and do the color calibration, but for whatever reason it never seems to work for me. So select bright star in there, So that's going to be preview 2. Preview 1 is the background, and drag the triangle onto there to do the colour calibration. So it's still looking very, very green. And inside I'm thinking, still I hope I can actually get some data out of this. You can see that there's faint different colours in the green, so there's a slight blue tinge to the core of the nebula. That's what I'm going to try now. I'm going to do SCNR. I don't know, maybe 75%. Again, it's all tricky to know how much to do these things. So I've removed a lot of the green cast, and you've got a bit of yellow and a bit of blue here, so it's looking not too bad really. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just going to save this quickly. And basically what we need to do now is the actual stretch itself. So you could do this using histogram and screen transfer function. I've got the scripts installed, which is the easy processing suite. I'm just going to do a soft stretch. It works quite nicely, and it's not too aggressive as well, which is always good. So just run soft stretch. So that's now stretched, and again I always forget this, linear, non-linear. So this is where the process sort of diverges from the process with Photoshop. When you start playing about with curves, and let me just sort of do a quick demonstration. If you're using curves to pull out some detail and you kind of pull the curve up, you'll see that the stars begin to bloat. And that was I think essentially probably one problem with what I had with the previous image, where sort of the stars, because I'd stretched it within Photoshop, I hadn't removed any stars in the image. I was processing the whole image. So I'm going to use Star Exterminator. I might have mentioned before, the reason I use this is because this works on an M1 based Mac. The StarNet++ sadly doesn't work. I'm not sure if they're ever going to change it, but yeah, it doesn't work for me, so I have to use this. I find, well, it works well enough for me. I'm quite happy with the performance of it. So there we go, we've got the stars extracted there, and now we can just focus purely on the nebula itself. I'm going to remove these previews purely because I don't need them. Although for some reason it's not letting me remove that one. So I guess I'll leave that there. So I can close Star Exterminator down, we're kind of done with that. You might also want to do some sort of noise reduction, and you can do a number of different things. So again, Easy Processing Suites has its denoise as well. Sometimes I use this, sometimes I don't. I think I've sort of find that, let's just run it and see what happens. So with this denoise, sometimes it feels like it's a bit too aggressive, and I end up with a bit of a blurred image. Sometimes it works okay, sometimes it doesn't. And again, it's just about trial and error. So I'll just fast forward after this. Okay, so that took quite some time. I think it was about 15 minutes or something. So we've now got a sort of denoised image. It's a lot smoother. It's also sort of suffered with a little bit of detail loss, I think, in terms of the darker areas. Hopefully I might be able to pull those back with something in a minute. So yeah, we're ready to sort of start pulling the different colours out. So what I did was used curves transformation. I think you can use there's a colour saturation tool as well, but I'm kind of familiar with this, so I'm gonna go with this. So click on the circle to open a preview, and then just pull some details out. But I want to keep the dark bit relatively dark, not black, but not sort of light. So pulling that out a bit more, you can begin to see there's a bit of yellow in there, there's a bit of blue. And what you can do, you can sort of take a look at sort of just boosting the saturation and seeing what happens there. what I'm going to do is, rather than do that, I'm going to try the different channels and pull the channels up and down and see what kind of impact that has. Basically, it's just a bit of playing about with things and seeing what happens. So maybe, now there we go. If you pull the green down, you can see that more blue is coming through. But also what you need to do is make sure that you don't start messing too much with the actual temperature of the image itself. So if you keep an eye on the background, make sure that it's still roughly sort of black. So what you can do there is sort of just look at the bits at the bottom here, the dark areas, and you can sort of begin to sort of pull that information back out again. Again, all very trial and error and playing about with stuff until you see something you like at the end of the day. The other amusing thing is whenever you actually process an image, I'm not sure whether it's the same for you, but if I process the same image again another time round, it can end up looking completely different to the one one that I processed before. So this is going to be an interesting example of, yeah, I got an image before, but I might prefer the one afterwards, I might not. Let's go with that and just hit the square to make that change. And then if you kind of leave it, then it will apply the change again, and then you then suddenly get a bit more of an impact. And sometimes it works well for me anyway to sort of see that again, rather than trying to stretch it and play about with it all in one go too soon. So let's just go back and let's do another S-curve on here. Might make this a bit more aggressive this time. So, and then just use the saturation on the whole thing. Pull that saturation, you can see that you're getting some nice yellows around the edge of the Rosette Nebula, and the blues a lot more prominent now. Again, it's always one of those things of going, right, okay, when should I stop? Just trying to look at that dark area to try and keep it as black as possible. Let's go with that, apply that one. And then obviously that's completely overcooked, so I'm not going to go any further with the previous stretch. Let's just see what we get here. Kind of like that. Some people like really contrasty images, and I'm still not too sure. I think I like contrasty images, but it's about sort of finding that balance with something that's vaguely natural. So it's just, although narrowband images, yeah, these nebula don't look like this at all. They don't have these colours. It's a Hubble palette image. You've taken H alpha, which is a red wavelength, and you've placed it into green, so it won't bear any resemblance to what it really looks like, if you could see it. So I'm going to stick with that. Let's make that final change. So yeah, all of this stretching, I've not been touching the stars at all. So it's only the nebula that's been changed here, and then you've got the stars that you could just put the stars over the top using pixel math. The other thing I could have done with this, I guess I could have created a nebula mask just using the range selection, and in doing that I could have targeted a bit more the nebula and less of the background. That's another way of doing it. I tend to do things differently each time, so they're all different ways of achieving the same thing. So that's that done, and then I might come in here and sort of play about with some of the HDR stuff just to see whether it works or whether it does anything. Let's try and see this, and that looks horrific. So So let's reduce the amount to a little bit lower. I think a lot of the time as well, it's always like, well, what does kernel radius actually do? How does it impact my image? And you can also just let it do the preview, and then if you turn preview off in the top left hand corner, you can begin to see the impact, and it's kind of creating a bit more definition in the different areas. I didn't mean to close that. So yeah, you've got the brighter areas. These darker bits are also need to be a little bit darker. So that's what that local histogram equalizing is doing. So do I like that? Yeah, I'll go with that. Maybe reduce it a little bit. I do see images where that's kind of, I feel it's overcooked, but again, it's all completely subjective, this part of processing. Certainly if you're not doing a broadband image to get it how it would look if you could see it in the night sky. So yeah, just bear that in mind. So that's that. Just try this for a laugh and see what happens. I don't think it's really, this works well for M31 and sort of getting the detail of the core of the galaxy. So that's it afterwards. It's kind of just reduced the brightness, which you would expect, I guess, from an HDR image, but I'm going to undo that because I actually want the contrast, and I like these brighter areas. So one other thing that I mentioned earlier on, so in scripts under utilities, you've got dark structure enhance, which is a great little script, again for pulling out the darker areas of an image, and these dust lanes it works really well with. I'm just going to leave all of the defaults and just hit OK. So there you go, that's that finish. So if you do undo it, see the before, so look at the dust lanes and the centre of the nebula. So I think it works quite nicely, that. I'm just going to run it again just out of curiosity as to what happens if you run it again. So yep, you can run it multiple times. Just kind of feels like it's a bit too much if you run it again in this particular instance. So yeah, just once through with that. I've got these pixel math masks that I got from Luke's YouTube channel, and he got it from one of his YouTube members. I might give one of these a try and see whether that helps with anything. So they're all masks based on pixel math. You just drag them onto the image, and then it'll generate a mask, and then you can use that mask to then sort of boost either saturation or basically apply any other tool to it. So drag the mask onto the image, and then you've got that lovely redness. But as soon as you open something like curves and do a preview, that disappears. Let's just try seeing what this does. So yep, it's definitely impacting the yellow parts. Again, it's all just trial and error of things to see what looks nice and what doesn't. This one's quite subtle. delete that. So hit the square to apply that curves transformation, reset it, close that, and then go up to mask and then just remove mask. I'm going to try the blue one as well, see if that selects this bit in the middle. Go, drag that blue mask onto the image and open curves again, if I can find it. Select circle for preview, and I'm just going to try an S curve on there. Definitely very subtle. And let's be a bit aggressive with the saturation. Again, that's still quite subtle, but let's go with that. Quite like that. Hit square to apply it. Close the preview, close curves. So I think I'm getting to where I want to get to. So let's remove that mask. Quite happy with the way that's looking now. And what I want to do now is let's close that mask. I don't need that one, I don't need this. And it's now a case of combining the stars back onto the image using Pixel Math. So just double click Pixel Math there. Go into Expression Editor, open the image, hit plus, click on the stars image. And I might play about with this in a minute. I'll see what they look like with the full strength stars. You can just use a bit of math to change the intensity, so you could reduce it to say 80% of the star intensity, and then that's what that will do. I'm not going to do that for now. I'm just going to let it be that one. Drag that onto there, and so there you got the stars. I think it looks quite nice like that. If we go back, just undo this, and then just put it down as let's do 0.75, not minus. That'd be interesting. 7.5, 0.75 of those stars. Drag that onto there. Can't remember what the other one looked like, but let's go with that. I think that looks quite nice. So just out of curiosity, so that's my final image. Just out of curiosity, I'm actually going to just open up the my previously modified one. It'd be interesting to see what it looks like. I think I actually prefer my new one, which is good. And again, it's so the very top one is the one that I processed a year ago in Photoshop. I think the biggest issues with this is around the star bloating. I think it's also sort of pushed a bit too far, given the limited data that I had. You can see that it's quite a bit noisy, although to be fair as well, this is a JPEG that's been saved. But yeah, it's still got the yellow areas. It's kind of more yellow than gold, and again, that was kind of what I thought I liked at the time. This is the one that I've posted on Instagram recently, and here's the one that I did in this video. So I think that's it. I'll leave it at that. I think it's probably ended up being quite a lengthy video. Again, thank you everybody for watching. If you found this useful, hit that like button. Please post a comment in the video as well if you found any of this useful. If you've got any questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, post those questions in the comments as well. If you haven't seen my videos before and you want to see more of these things, then don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell so you get notifications when I post new videos. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching everybody, and clear skies.